عليكم السلام. Okay, welcome everyone. First of all, let me introduce GDG Abu Dhabi for those of you who don't know it. We are a Google Developer Group in Abu Dhabi. We organize events, whether training sessions, discussion sessions, hackathons, competition, whatever in Abu Dhabi, anything that's related to any of Google technologies. So you can find us in abudhabi.gtags.org or on our Google Plus page or on developers.google.com/groups. You can find us there. So today we are going to start our first session for the HTML and Web Designing Bootcamp. We'll start today by the very basics. So if you don't have any experience yet, we will today cover all the theory or the basics behind web designing, both HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Then the following sessions will go into details in each HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and jQuery. And in our last session, we'll be covering HTML5 and CSS3, at least just the basics to get you into it. So what is web development? Well, web development is the process of building a website, okay, on internet pages. So how do we build these websites, or what are they made of? Well, they are mainly made of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. HTML is basically the layout of the website, how it's structured, while CSS covers all the designing or colors or styling of these elements, while JavaScript goes and does all the logic behind, almost. So first of all, we need to cover one part. For best practice or while designing, we always try to separate HTML from CSS from JavaScript, and that's mainly for 4 reasons. First of all, accessibility. When you have everything separate, you can easily understand your own code. You can edit it. Also, if for search engines, when you have everything in your code is tidy and you can't find everything, the search spiders can help you to better understand your website and cover it. Also, portability, because when you have everything separate, you can reuse whatever you want. You can use the same styling on different websites and so on. Maintainability, because you can understand your code. You can change one part without having to affect everything else. Also, performance, because browsers load all the files in parallel. So when you have everything separate, it will load it much faster and will perform much better. So let us start with the HTML and what it is. It's mainly the page structure. It is a formatting language, defines the content of the layout, and it's not a programming language. So don't mix it up, because a lot of people think they can program HTML. It's mainly just a formatting language. It's based on XML. So the main idea behind HTML is tags, which are, as you can see here, we have the tag name, then attribute and value, and the content between these. So every tag has a start and an end, or opening tag and closing tag, all its content in between, and it has attributes and values. We'll go through some of these attributes. Here, for example, we have the tag P, which stands for paragraph. Okay, it has an attribute of ID with the value example, and a class with the value sample, and we can find its content, paragraph content. So what are the main structure of HTML? First, we have the main tag, which contains the whole website, which is the HTML tag, and it starts and it's the beginning and end of the whole page or website. Then the other 2 main parts, which are inside the HTML tag, are the head and the body tags. The head, there we will define a lot of stuff, all the codes, styling, and other stuff, while the body will contain the HTML or the structure or the website itself. Okay. So since HTML is based on XML, we need to tell the browser that is opening the website that this page is HTML, it's not an XML, so it knows how to parse it and to understand it. So before the HTML tag, we just give a tag which is called doc type, and there we can define. For earlier HTML, which is HTML4, you have HTML public, and all this is the meaning or the tag that defines HTML4. So if you put this at the beginning of your website, and everything will be rendered according to HTML4 standards. Well, if you have any HTML5 specific tags, they won't be rendered properly. Or in the new HTML5, they tried to fix all of these stuff, so they just made it simpler, and it's just doc type HTML. It will render anything from HTML4 the same way, while if you have any HTML5 specific tags, it will also render them properly. So let's get some of the basic elements in HTML. We have the headlines H1, H2, H until H6. You've seen them in Word or whatever when you have the hierarchy. So it's better to organize your code to H1. It's even for the search spiders. H1 is mainly the title of the page. So anything within an H1, it will understand it as the title. H2 is subtitle, and so on. Also, there are the paragraphs, that P that you saw. It will also help you to organize your code. Unordered and ordered list. UL is unordered, and NI is a list element. So as you can see, you have unordered list, and within it, the content, we have list items, and each list item has its content, which is the text that will show. Other important and most used tags is the links. Every website has a link inside it, one way or another. So it's just simply an A. The link tag name is A, and the attributes that specifies the link for the website or the page to go through to is the href. And if you put something inside for the content, like Google here, it will show the word Google. If you click it, you will go to the href. Okay. Also, you have tables. Tables will help you a lot in doing a lot of stuff. If you're doing a website that has a lot of grids and so on, you'll simply have a table. It has TRs, which are table rows, and TDs, which are columns, and TH, which are headers. Okay, we'll go through all of these and do a lot of practice on these in the following session, inshallah. Now for the CSS, which is the presentation, how to show your styling and your HTML. It is the look and feel of your layout. Your HTML is your layout. This gives it life. If you don't have any CSS, you'll have a dull interface, just text, no borders, no colors, no backgrounds, nothing. And of course, it's not a programming language, just like HTML, it's just for presentation. So how do we use CSS? First of all, like I told you in tags, you have attribute and value. So you can have it inline within the tag itself, an attribute called style, and within that you can have a lot of values like color is red. Or you can make it embedded or internal, which you remember the head tags I told you about. You can define the styling, all the styling there, which will help you separate so you won't get lost between your HTML and CSS. Or if you have a lot of styling, it's always better to have it as external, which is a separate file, and you just link it to your page within the head by just inside the head you add the tag link. The rel relation is style sheet, and just give it the link for it, which is style.css in our case. just a couple of how examples of how it it styles your everything. You have something called the selector. When if you define the if you define the style or the CSS inline, it will simply affect the tag you wrote it in. But if you want to affect multiple elements, more than one tag, you can use selectors. The selectors can either select an element by its type, like P for paragraph or H1. So any H1 will have this style. Or if you add a hash before the word, that means the element with the ID main. So nothing before the word, it's the tag itself, the tag name itself. If you add hash, it's the ID. And also, I showed you the class. If you add a dot before the word, it's actually the class. So you can have multiple classes for something and style it accordingly. And you can have like a hierarchy. So if you want any element with the class main and then the element inside this main that has the ID P1, you can do as following. So just by separating them with a space, you tell it any element with a class main, then the element inside it with the ID P1, style it accordingly. So this is the first part, which is the selector and how you choose what to style. The second part is the curly braces. So after you write your selectors, you just open and close as the curly braces, where you will write all your properties. The properties are mainly the color or background or picture or whatever, which tells the browser how to style each element. Let's have a couple examples. Here we have the hash zone, so we select an element with the ID zone 1. Then we have the curly braces, which will contain our properties. So for the zone 1, we have the property color, and we can either give the colors in hexadecimal, or you can give it in RGB or RGBA. So here, by adding hash, then the color itself, that's hex. So in this case, the text color within zone 1 will be white, and the background color will be red. As you can see, you can also define the colors as words. There are some basic colors you can find, like red, orange, green, white, black. All these you can find them in HTML. But if you want that specific color that you don't have as basic, you can always choose the hex or RGB or whichever. Also here another example, which is P zone 1. So any paragraph with an element with a class zone 1 will have a font size of 12 pixels and a font family of Verdana. Okay, any questions so far? No, an ID should be if you've done Java or whatever, an ID you can have it only for one element, and it's very specific. You can't have multiple elements with the same ID. So each element has one ID and it shouldn't be repeated. While a class, you can say a class of let's say BG white, which is background white. You can add this class to multiple elements, and all of them will have the styling that's for this class. Okay, any other questions so far? All good? Okay. So it's always easier for us to use classes because you always have multiple elements with the same styling, and since the IDs are always very specific, so you don't need to repeat all the IDs for everything. So here in this case we have the element, the paragraph element with both classes intro and help. You just need to separate them with a space that will define it as two different classes, and here you give some properties for the class intro and some properties for the class help. Okay. Now, one of the most important parts of CSS is the box model. We have a lot of properties that define the spacing or the sizes for anything. So we have an element called div, which is basically a box, a container for anything. So let's take that for example. We can give it a property of width and height. So if we give it a width of 500 pixels and height of 500 pixels, it will define this smallest box, the most inner box. Then you have something called padding. The box itself has borders, right, which are the edges of it. So the padding is the space between the box itself and its borders. So if you, let me give you an example. Here, let's have a div, and that will make it much easier to explain. Let's give it inline style, a height of 500 pixels, or make smaller for now, 100 pixels, and width of 100 pixels. Okay, just for us to see it, let's give it a background, a black background. So this is the box here, and I'll give it a border. More than 1 pixel on. Okay, so as you can see here, the box itself has a width of 100 pixels and a height of 100 pixels, with a background, black background, and a border, a red border. Yeah. Okay. If I write anything inside it, let me give the text a white color. Okay. As you can see, the text or the content of the div is stuck to the borders, so there is no spacing between them. But if, for instance, I give it padding, which is basically the space between the border and the content, here, let's give it 10 pixels. You see, now you have a space between the border and the content of the box. So always border, the width and height, between them you have the padding. Okay, so this is, we covered the width, height, and then the padding. You have padding top, right, bottom, and left. You always go clockwise. Okay, then you have the border, as I showed you, which is the edges of the box. Then you have the space between the borders and the outer container or outer elements, so anything outside. So here, let's put this in another div, for instance. Okay, okay, and let's get this a border just for us to see of border 1 pixel on. Okay, so now you have, as you can see, the borders of the inner div is right next to the border of the outer div, which is black. So if I give it a margin for the inner div, I'm talking here, of 10 pixels, now you have space outside. So from outside to inside, you have the margin, then you have the border, padding, then the content, width and height. Okay, and that's the basic layout that you will use in everything. So in anything you will always use the padding, margin, borders, and everything. So now we covered the very basics of CSS. Now the next part is the JavaScript, or the behavior of the web page. It's a web programming language. It's not Java. JavaScript is different than Java. It's nowhere related. It makes the web pages more interactive. You can use it for so many things. We'll show you now. And always don't confuse it with Java. It's completely different. So same as CSS, we have 3 ways to define JavaScript, JS or JavaScript. We have the inline, which is also inside the tag itself. You have an attribute. Like here, we want to tell the browser, when you click on this element, so on click, do something, which is a function we define. So let me show you this. For instance, here I'll give it on click, and there's a built-in function called alert. I'll just say hi. Okay. So now when I click, it gives me an alert with the content of hi. Okay, so this is inline. While the second way is to have it embedded or internal, or by defining it inside the header between tags of script. You have to define the type of the script. So here we have text/JavaScript, and inside this you can have all the functions and selections and anything you want. Or if you have a lot of JavaScripts, because sometimes you can go into thousands of lines of JavaScripts if you're building a big system, you can have it as external on a separate file. And we'll cover that later on. So let's give some basics of JavaScript. You have the variables. Unlike if any of you used to Java or to C++, you don't have in JavaScript integer, boolean, string, and so on. You have a var, which can be anything. So for instance, you can define a variable which is an integer as var foo is equal to 7. Okay, so now foo is an integer. Or you can make it an array. So just var my array, and you just make it square brackets with elements separated by a comma. Or you can make a variable as a function. So here, my function, you define a function with 2 inputs, x and y, 2 parameters, right? And you just return whatever you want. And same as any programming language, you have the if statements, the loops, and the calls and recursive, and whatever you want.
Is it the same syntax like the old one?
For if, loops, and all of these, yeah. But you can have some differences if you go very specific. So for basic functionality, it's the same as any language. You just need to get the idea of you have a var instead of integer, boolean, or so. Any questions before I move on? Olga? Okay. So how in the inline I showed you that we just can give it on click, and we click that element itself. But how can we choose the element from the JavaScript? Well, you have the get methods in JavaScript, which are the document get element by ID or document get element by tag name. Document is basically the whole page, so from there you can control anything inside the page. So document.get element by ID is a function that returns to you the element itself if you pass the ID of the element. So here it will get the element with the ID of my ID. Or you can make it get element by tag name. So here it will get you all the elements of the type paragraph, or the tag name paragraph. So how do you, or what can you do with these elements? Well, for instance, you can have, as I showed you can have an element, and inside there is another element. So for the inner one, it has a parent, and if it has something inside, it's a child. So you have a parent node, a node, and its child. So if you get an element here, which is the element with the ID main, you shouldn't really add the hash here. It's a mistake. I have to remove it. You just give it the ID without any hash. It's not like CSS. And if you want to get the parent of the of this element, you just tell it p.parent node, which will return to you the parent. Or if you want to get the what's inside it, like the span here, you can tell it p.child nodes, which will return to you all the childs. Or .first child, it will give you just the first one. So if you have multiple, it will choose the first one, or last child, it will choose the last one. So this is how you can grab elements by IDs or tags or parents, child, and so on. And we'll give you other ways you can do that with jQuery later in our 4th session. Again, I need to.
Do we actually access any number of them, or is it just
no, any number. Yeah. You can select one, or you can have the node itself, the element itself, or the variable itself. You can select multiple elements, and you can, when you affect one, you affect all of them, and or you can choose one of them. So if you select all of them and give it a background, it will affect all. Or it's like an array, you can choose one of them and choose.
That's called the child node.
Oh yeah.
With the elements base child.
Yeah.
And last child.
Yeah.
That's comparing
Yeah, the first child, last child. It's yeah.
So we could actually basically like second grade and stuff. I mean, there's a tree on this using it right now.
Yeah.
So
You're asking about the built-in, the first child, last child. That's just built-in.
does we have second grade and stuff as well, or just
No.
That's different. Everything else has to go yourself.
Yeah. That's how you can select all the childs, and it's basically like an array. So then you can get how many elements, like .length or .count, and from there you can select which one you want.
Like when you saw the previous slide, there was a child nodes. Child nodes, it's in that area of nodes.
Yeah, so we do not actually need to access the second
No.
More and more you'll find to do that.
Yeah. First, last, those are built in. You can select all of them and then choose from that. It's like an array. Okay. So that was for how do you grab the elements inside the page. But what about events, like as you saw before in the inline on click? How do you say when you click on that element, I want you to do this or that? So here is an example of the event listeners or listening functions. For instance, you have the function do something, which is a variable, do something, and it will do something, but you want to do this function when you click on an element. So simply you can choose whatever element you want, like here, this element. So let's say this element is a div or a button or whatever. And there are two ways, the attach event or add event listener. The attach event is for Internet Explorer only, while add event listener is for everything else, Microsoft. Anyway, they have to be different. So simply give it the event that you want to listen to or to wait for. For instance, here on click, or you can have hover or mouse in, mouse out, focus, blur, all of these here, mouse down, mouse up, blur, load, whichever event you'd like, and you'll give it simply the function itself that you want to do when it's clicked. What do you mean by multiple?
Yes. And he was asking about you can have on click and on mouse in. And
Yeah,
mouse
yeah.
over.
You can have all the events listeners you want on any element.
Actually, almost all other programming languages allow you for multiple methods.
Yeah. If you do Java and you use like applets or Swing, you just implement an interface and it will give you all the functions, and there you can do whatever you want.
C# and VB are the same thing. They're different programming languages.
Yeah.
Yeah. You'll see them.
Okay. So, as you notice that when you want to add an event listener to an element, you have a different way for IE and for everything else. So how do you know which to apply? Or do you have to write everything twice and so on? Well, simply you can do what most people do is just test, ask if this browser is Internet Explorer or not. Like here, if navigator.app name is equal to IE, you can do that, but it's wrong because sometimes you have an event or a function that wasn't available in IE, then it was, or whatnot. So, or you have a lot of browsers, so you don't have to go specifically for each one. Simply, you can test for the functionality itself, if it's available in the browser or not. So before we said element.add event listener, right? So if it was IE, it doesn't have this function, correct? So here, if you just write this element.add event listener, it will give you a boolean values, true or false. If the browser supports this function, it will give you true, so you can do whatever you want inside the if statement. If it doesn't support it, it will give you false, and you can use it for a lot of stuff like the latest features of HTML5, like WebRTC and real-time communication. You can just test for the functionality and choose. If it doesn't support it, you just can tell the user, sorry, your browser that doesn't support this or that. So always test for the functionality, don't test for the browser. So now what can you do? You can do pretty much anything. You can define functions like hide and simply tell this display equal none, which will hide this. Can anyone tell me why here we're saying this? Okay, what does it referring to?
The object is
Yeah, well, here whichever object you have attached this function to, this will refer to it. So you don't have to choose which element or select it on the function. You can have this simple function and call it in any button or any click or mouse down or any event, and it will apply it to that event to that element. Now, before I go to what's new in HTML5 and CSS3, which we will be covering in our last session, after you all get the up to HTML4, CSS2, and JavaScript and jQuery. Does anyone have any questions before we move on? Anything at all? All good? Okay, cool. So,
can we ask some questions? Can we ask them some questions?
okay.
That'll be amazing, right?
Yeah.
I think it's better for you guys to ask questions before we do.
Ask them a couple of questions.
All right. Okay. Like you were saying, what's the point of having this? Again, because I didn't actually get to hear your guys' answer. I'm not sure if you got the answer. Did you? Should I randomly choose anyone to answer, or should you guys volunteer?
I have a doubt here that. Do you know the answer?
You got it?
Yeah.
Okay. So remember the concept of reusability. Huh? The concept of reusability. Can you explain?
Yes, instead of specifying this function to one element, then you will have to write the same function for each element, just like this. and this will be a particular element that calls this function. And since it's this, it will refer to any element of this function. So we can reuse it for any element.
All right, all right. Did everyone get that?
Okay.
Okay. So when you said we're testing for capabilities and not browsers, there was one more thing that you don't want to do that because of. I mean, we want to test for capabilities because what happens when we test for browsers? Remember, we have browsers everywhere now. So we have desktop, we have mobile. So the minute you think you have every browser on the desktop covered, oops, you have something going down on the mobile, the tablet. And because browser vendors can just change the name. Today's IE, tomorrow's E. It's removed completely. And that's one more point, right? I think I'll be asking questions at the end, so
Yeah.
cover it up.
Okay. So now we'll start with talking about some of the new cool features in web and web designing, which are in HTML5 and CSS3, packed with awesomeness and really mind-blowing possibilities. If we still have time at the end, I'll show you a few websites built in HTML5 and JavaScript. You'll be amazed that this is actually web. So, HTML5 features. You have mainly eight features in HTML5, which are semantics. There are a lot of new semantics in HTML5, like audio, video, and so on, canvas. A lot of new semantics that will help you to reduce the work you need to do for anything. It will reduce your code. You have the CSS3. Now it will help you to do some amazing 3D animations or 2D and transitions and shadows and so on. It's really good. You have multimedia. Now with Get User Media, which is called RTC, you can, with about, I guess, 3 lines of code, you can make the camera, the webcam on your laptop to work and show it on the website. With just 3 lines. Before, you had to use plugins and you have to depend on third parties. If they cancel their plugin, you have to look for another vendor that provides the same service, and a lot of hassle. Now it's very simple. You have graphics and 3D, especially with Canvas. Now you can build a lot of games. I bet almost all of you played the Angry Birds online, right? Okay, almost all of you. Or any of the online games, the new ones at least, Cut Rope and so on. It's all built in Canvas. If you have Google Chrome, just right click on it and click Inspect Element. You'll find the whole game is just a Canvas tag. That's it. So you can do a lot of graphics, 3D games, a lot of stuff just using this Canvas and JavaScript, of course. You have device access. You can access any device. If you have an accelerometer on the machine, if you're using the phone, you have an accelerometer, you can access it. So when you turn the phone, something changes. If you have GPS, you can access it. What else? Gyroscope, NFC, Bluetooth, I believe. Anything that is on your device, you can access it pretty much. Performance. Now it's so much faster. If you build something with like Java or C# or any other, how can I say it? Any other platform other than web, I bet you it's gonna need much more resources and processing power to perform equally with the new technology in HTML5 and CSS3. Also, you have something that's cool is offline and storage. Before, if you're built an app and the user lost connection, most of the time, a lot of you, if you don't have a backup on the server, the user has to start from scratch again, whatever they were doing. Now with offline and storage, you can save a lot of stuff into the browser itself, so that even if you get disconnected, you can still do whatever you want, and when you connect again, you can load it or continue or whatever you want. Before, you had cookies, on sessions, but they're not as secure as offline on storage right now. You can basically have a database on the browser itself instead of relying on the database on the server.
How many of you guys did use Gmail? Everyone, great. When you write an email, don't you see it saying saved? Saving, saved? It's basically a feature of HTML5. It's been out there. If you close the browser and open it again, you're going to find the same email that you composed there. You don't lose anything.
And we have connectivity. Can you explain that?
Your connectivity. Now, how many of you would love to have a chatting application on your web? Right? Everyone loves chatting, and it's essentially being part of every dynamic website nowadays. Before, you have to learn Java, to have a small Java applet, a weblet that works with you, manages all the communication, or you have a Flash plugin that will also handle the ports communication. How do we communicate on the web? How do we communicate? I'm talking technical. Any networking people here? Yeah, how do we? What's the protocol? TCP/IP, right? So we're using ports, right? What? Exactly. So basically, what we're operating on is TCP/IP, and then we branch out. So in order to take care, HTML5 thinks native. What people are used to do, let's just bring it in a simple way in JavaScript that we can just utilize it. So now you have something called WebSockets. Don't we communicate via sockets at the end of the day? One socket leaving. Then the packages, we save it to the other side. Now you have that out of the box in HTML5. Using WebSockets, you can define receiver, you can define a sender, establishing a handshake, and transferring data messages. Very easy. Don't need anything but JavaScript. And this is where connectivity comes in. Real-time communication. So if you have communication, you don't even have a chatting, you have a notification system. And it's amazing because now it's HTML5. So if I have a mobile, I'm viewing the website on the mobile, and I have a desktop, I can get both of them pushing notifications just like it's a normal, iPhone, what's it called? Yeah, they call it something, a ball. They have a name for it. So anyway, this is what you get by connectivity.
So HTML5 simply offers video, audio, canvas, 2D or 3D, geolocation, and a lot more, as we mentioned before. While CSS3 offers animations, shadows, gradients, font faces, transitions, and transforms, and a lot of other stuff. Okay. So, in order to really master all of these, first of all, what we're doing today mainly is to get familiar over everything and in the following sessions. After that, you need to get experienced by practicing even more and more. If you want, I'll give you a lot of examples to do. That's pretty easy. The more you practice, the more experience you'll get. And trust me, it won't take you long to achieve mastery. Trust me, within 2-3 months, you can build some amazing web apps so simply, you'll be shocked. Okay. Any questions? No questions.
No way. No questions?
Should we ask questions?
One of two things is happening here. Either you guys are way too smart. That's excellent. We want that, okay? Or you guys are really, really shy. So, which one is it? Okay.
Should we ask them some questions?
I guess so. Why not?
No? If you understand everything, so you should be prepared to ask.
Let me start by asking you your previous background. Who here knows web in any way? Used web, okay. In what way? Did you program? You designed or programmed web? JavaScript. But you designed, so you used HTML, CSS? Okay, who else? Okay, what kind of ideas do you have in mind? Like, do you have any questions? You saw some things on the web, I was like, how is it done? Don't you have that question?
I'm just wondering how they combine with each other.
You're combined.
Yeah, how are they combined?
Interesting. Okay. We should have a sample.
Yeah. Let me open a website and show how at least CSS and HTML are combined.
Okay.
Okay.
What other questions? Let me have a big sample. The point here is not for you guys to stay silent because it's just another useless loop. That will happen for sure. What else? The best thing about the web is everything is exposed. Meaning, right now, we want to see how this website is done. It's not something that's hidden anymore, right? Right?
Yeah, let's go to.
Modern browsers have this thing called web tools or developer tools or inspect element. As you can see, if you just split this inspect element from the main browser, corner left.
Where is it? Oh.
Okay. As you can see, the whole schema is right here.
And
Now the whole HTML page, visions, elements, and layout is right here. So the structure is basically done. Okay? No, you did not see it because it was too rusty. If you remember, Internet Explorer 8 and 7, you can right-click, view source. It gives you this horrible notepad, which eventually you'll hate yourself and you just close, right? Or you have to copy and paste it on front page or maybe Dreamweaver and start, messing around. But what this does is not just expose it and have it in a hierarchical way so that you know, for example, these are nested divs. No. It takes it to the next level. Now, as you know, as Ubay said, every element has its own JavaScript. It might have its own style as well. It shows you the attributes. It shows you the related style on the left, on the right here, as you can see. For example, this span, right now, you see the highlighted span?
This one.
Span is basically a label, a piece of text. It could be style. So it's showing you that it has a class, block title, and on the right, it's giving you the rule the block title is given for this element. So you don't actually have to guess what block title means or try to communicate between, oh, this is the HTML, so I have to download the CSS and, oh, what's going on here? So basically, if you like something, just inspect it and see how it's done. And then you can just go ahead and do one or two things. You either can copy this very easily, because it's text, right? Or you can just mess with it. Can we mess with something?
Okay.
Let's mess something. Let's break this page.
Let me put it back here.
Okay.
So let's see. Let's get this thing and let's try to style something different. Let's say I want to change this color. So in the element side, here we're writing inline, so it will override anything. So here let's just say color and red. So you have it. That's one. Let's give it. I'll show you something from CSS3, which is called box shadow. And let's give it what? 0, 0, 10, so or this is a shadow, or even more. Let's have some text shadow.
Zoom in so that you will see the effect. Can you see what happened to the sky here? You have some text shadow. Now before HTML5 in CSS, this is actually CSS3. Before that, we used to have images, right? You had a shadow, you had a circle, whatever. You have to download everything. So when he was talking about performance earlier, it's performance friendly because now it's just text. How easy is it to transfer text from the server to the client? What's used in kilobytes of things going on. So usually when you inspect element for things, you're not really fixing the website, but instead you're just inspecting how it's done. You copy and you reverse engineer. Now some people would mess it up to the point that, hey, I made this website, but it's actually a real website. Don't do that. It's really lame. But one more cool thing is, what if you want to know, like she was saying, how it's made up? So it's giving you how it's made up, structure, style, and if you want to see some JavaScript as well,
Sources.
you can go right here and again split. As you can see, this is a JavaScript that's within this page. So it's kind of extracts the script and shows you, oh, this is how it's done. This is a cool website. I want to know how it's actually structured. Yani how many HTML pages do I have? How many CSS files? And JavaScript. Maybe I want to reverse engineer it by stealing the source. Maybe. And we do that sometimes. So
let me go to something much simpler because
simpler.
What?
Google.com.
Okay.
How about that? The easiest of the easiest.
Okay. Here. Let's inspect one. And you can go to resources.
As you can see here, I just collapse all those. Okay. It's defined in front of you here in terms of what kind of scripts, what kind of style sheets, and what kind of HTML pages. How about some scary stuff too? Don't worry.
It's all encoded and encrypted, so you won't really understand the thing of it. But sometimes it's really just some simple stuff. If you were able to decode it or decrypt it, it's pretty easy.
Now, let me ask you this question, which is actually a logical question. Okay? Since we know it's a given fact that the web is exposed, right? So everyone can see everything. How do you protect yourself? Again? How do we do server? Remember, this is HTML. So there's a given I'll give you. Okay? HTML and CSS will always appear, no matter what. A color and a text, at the end of the day, whatever happens, they will appear. So you cannot protect your style. But what can you protect? That's a database you're talking about? Oh, database is different, but I'm talking about the code. What's the brain of your website? What's the brain? JavaScript. Huh? Style is just style. Anyone can do colors, and anyone can do work. But JavaScript is still exposed. How do you protect JavaScript? What's it? In web, you have to be familiar with a very popular concept, which is minification. Minification or obfuscation. Have you ever heard of the term spaghetti code? Spaghetti code. Spaghetti code is just as the name suggests, it's spaghetti. You can't know. كله ملخبط داخلين في بعض صح? Very hard to understand. So what happens is when you finish a website and it's really, really big and it's really, really important, there's a lot of free minifiers online. You just give them the JavaScript file. What happens then? Every name, every variable, every function is renamed, encoded. So let's say a function is called getMyName, it becomes ABC. And any reference in the code to that myName is going to be renamed. So first, you have no melamek to your code. Code is done. How can we even make this JavaScript much more complicated? Just think, you guys are now destroying the nature of the JavaScript, but it still works, huh? It still works. How can I make it even more complicated? That's renaming. It's refactoring, it's obfuscated. It will be still shown, see?
Here, you have the function, the param SCGG.
Make it like remember, still, the JavaScript should execute صح. And we're not destroying it so the browser will just break. And at the end of the day, any references in my HTML that's calling a function should be renamed accordingly, and it will have to execute in the same order. So that means there is limited space. Yes, that's one. صح? Usually when you type code, what happens? You leave yourself some comments, صح? And you have like lots of spaces. I know people have double enter. So you have, instead of 1,500 lines, you end up with 5,000. So a good minifier does this. Remove every single white space. The coding, executing the code, doesn't require white space. As a matter of fact, you can just type one line of code. I think there is one line of code here. There was one line of code.
They did that for the style sheet.
Now I'm going to talk about that. What I'm talking about right now applies to both script and CSS. Like if you still want to make it hard for people to read CSS, just remove lines. Can you rename CSS? Why? Because the rules. A background color cannot be ABC. Huh?
So I don't have software to
As it
what should be
a minifier, an actual minifier program, it gives you a key. You know how encryption works? Salt and key, there's a seed. And you know you have the key. That's a one-way action or a two-way action, it depends. If you don't have a key, خلاص, it's done. It cannot be reversed. If you have a key, you're the only one who can read it reverse. Okay?
But sometimes even if you return it to what it was, they already changed the name of the variable of the functions. So get my ID function, and no program will know that this function is supposed to be named get my ID. It will reorder it and maybe give it some. It might not repeat the A's in multiple places if it has multiple references. So you'll have only one thing with the name A, B, C, but it will still won't really change the name of the functions or variables into something understandable, at least most of the times.
Everyone got this one? Is it clear? Read it.
No.
Exactly. Get no IDs, that's okay, because you have the IDs, that's okay. But the name of the function, so you have like get my name. No, you can't. When you minify a JavaScript, it usually references everything in the JavaScript with a page. You don't really minify one part or leave it dead, right? Otherwise, you end up with your own lost code. Huh? What is it also good for? So I'm talking about security, huh? I did this, I renamed, I removed white spaces. Compression? Yes. Excellent. Compression. I had a 45 kilobytes worth of stuff. By removing white spaces, which adds to the size of the file, and I removed comments and really long names, I ended up with 15. Excellent. Sweet. Same thing applies to CSS, about with different restrictions. Okay? We would love to compress HTML and remove its we want to remove how it looks and feels, but still, the browsers need a certain way that HTML is displayed. Cool. I just wanted to add to this point. It's really cool.
Okay. What cool website should you show them?
What? Chrome Labs. We're gonna show you some of the new HTML. HTML4 is probably dying. So what you learn, you'll take core to HTML5. We want to show you this example of HTML5 that's been widely deployed. It's amazing. Take a look at this. You have sound?
Yeah.
This entire website is done by the Chrome team in Google from the Chrome Web Lab. It's completely HTML5 CSS3. And it needs a very powerful machine library. It's intensive, processor intensive, and graphic card intensive. If you have an iPad or whatever, I haven't owned it before, no bother.
Loading. While it loads, let's show them something else.
Let's see this.
This is built with Chrome. This will show you really some of the amazing stuff you can do with Canvas and 3D. Just also wait for it to load. Yeah. Here.
What happened is Google went and had this nice deal with Lego. We all played with Lego one way or another. Okay. And they ported all the pieces that Lego built through their whole life into 3D pieces. 3D pieces that are used in web. Okay. And now you can build any kind of shape and save it on the Google map. So this is my house. Place it there. Follow email. That's it. So as you can see, it's 3D. I can't say nothing more, but it's also web.
Yeah.
So right click.
Inspect element.
It's crazy. You can see the whole thing in HTML.
Okay.
Just done.
Yeah.
I think pin it would be
Yeah,
easier.
that would be easier. Here. Just click here. This is the overlay. Let's see. Yeah. This is the whole thing. Everything is just canvas. Just one element. And everything inside it is done using JavaScript.
Can you add a new piece, show them how it's rendered, and 3D rotation? It's really cool.
Okay. Let's build.
If Khalifa University's internet connection is the only thing that was still HTML5. So let's go. Well, it has a lot of stuff. The thing is, HTML5 is caching. It uses cache because it has a lot of stuff. So instead of just re-calling every time, it caches a lot. So it's using that everything on the first one. And remember when I talked about separation is key, performance, maintainability, and stuff? Performance is also a key of separation because when you have HTML separated from CSS, separated from JavaScript, what the browser does, it actually caches the CSS file in JavaScript. And every time you call, I'm not going to recall the CSS file. It lives there for some time. So it's easier to perform. But if you have everything in the HTML code is not cached. It's recalled every time. So that you can see how separation is actually very beneficial. Okay, let's play.
Right. Here also, it's just a canvas. All of this. Let's first show the. Okay, let's open it now.
Did you feel like it's a movie? High-tech movie stuff.
All this is just web. That's what's amazing.
Okay, so on the left, to the left is the
So,
let's just
What?
see the face thing.
sketch spots. Let it load. Here, the internet is pretty slow. Just leave that later.
First, remove the version of Chrome because it's expensive.
Okay.
Don't you think it's slow about that?
No. Flash is.
The thing is, Flash also doesn't cache. Flash reloads the object every time on the server.
But nothing is not like that. It's not.
Maybe because actually right now we're screen capturing the machine. So
Yeah.
it's actually intensive. And if we shut down the whole screen capture right now, it's going to be easier. Besides, the internet connection sucks. And that sucks both on the XML and Flash.
Here, what's going on is Google has a museum in London, and there they have those robots that draw in the sand, so it can take your photo.
You're gonna sketch your photo.
You see, it asked me for permission to access my webcam. Let's give it this one. Allow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nobody's face is gonna be in London right now.
Okay.
I'll send you the video of your face being drawn, so you can leave.
Okay. So let's take a photo. Here.
Just take a look at how intelligent. This is all done with JavaScript purely now.
Nothing is on the server. It's on right now on the client.
طبعا this is Google, so مش بس spaghetti code, we have pasta code. We have every kind of pasta code.
Here.
It's still, I don't think it's
Now, the thing is, just take a look at it, I'll explain it.
It will make it something that's drawable.
It's removing all the unnecessary stuff from the face, including his face. Come on.
It's all this.
Yes, it is. It's deeply in. This is Google's algorithms, and you're seeing the power of their algorithms. It's amazing. انت طالع انجل portrait complete.
Here.
Looks scary صراحة. Well, he's an angel, so it still works.
Okay. So now it will just send it to the robots. It will stay in the queue, and
And within an hour or maybe the end of the day, he's going to share the video.
Yeah, I'll send it to all of you. If any of you hasn't registered on our website, please do before you leave so that I can send you all the details. I'll give you the website later at the end of the session.
Like right now, how many HTML5 features did this use? Let's enumerate. Video, audio. Actually, there is no audio, so but there is an audio for the stuff and music being played. Video, getting his image. Canvas for all the 3D stuff that's going on. CSS stream for all the amazing styling and animation. WebSockets. How are the robots receiving the command right now? Actually, almost everything. And offline storage, I don't think so. But anyway, you see at least 5 features in one application. When you see this, you believe it's Flash or maybe a native application. But it's one.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to actually get into the form of browser before you want to get into it?
What do you think?
So this is CSS3, so it's going to be taking a while.
I'll go into the campus.
Yeah, it's actually in the beginning. They got an index O.
Okay.
Canvas.
By the way, this is a presentation all done in web. This is the website.
Slideshow and HTML.
Yeah, you can right click inspect element.
Whatever can we abandon Microsoft. It's not mobile. Take a look at this.
This is WebGL. It's also for 3D. Let's hope the internet allows us to do anything with it. I guess not.
Well, but the end of the session is going to be HTML5 basics. That's if the requests are really massive for By the way, we're using our mouse to navigate through a 3D portrait. Okay, left click will zoom in, will go in. It's a camera, صح? Who here worked with OpenGL for graphics? C++. WebGL is an extension of OpenGL. And it's pretty easy because it's JavaScript. You can have all the weird stuff. You know? Take a look at what's going on inside. Hey, Cupcake.
Cupcake, which is Android 1.8.
Okay. So these are actually all the Android versions. I mean, I would Cupcake the life of the cheesecake.
Key lime pie.
I'm just getting to the cake.
Cupcake and donut.
We did a couple of things. We first created a perspective, an actual scene, right? And we're using a camera, all within the browser. But what about these objects? You don't really think these objects are grown on HTML5, huh? But how do we design usually 3D objects? 3D Max, you know, Light, Cinema, whatever. The amazing thing is, you can export from those applications and you can use them in your HTML5 3D app, which is extra cool. So now you can actually integrate things together. You can make a game where your designers create all the characters and then you can just use them. Yeah, but there is a specific extension for WebGL. But every new application is supporting that extension, so there you go. So the Cupcake and the small weird robot is, yeah.
Yeah, this is gingerbread. There was Cupcake, then Donut. The internet is not loading everything. Then Android 2.0, which is for you.
About reflection.
Huh?
Light, as you can see in the scene, it's very important with the lights and reflections, right? As you can see, there is light
here.
and there is reflection.
See?
As you can see, Zahid, checking. Okay, good.
Nice reflections, everything.
It's really cool. And now, a very important question should pop here. المفروض يكون سؤال. ايه السؤال اللي هسأله دلوقتي؟ إنه ده it's very heavy but it's very advanced. يا ترى كل البراوزرز شغال عليهم؟ No. And that's a question you should consider. So HTML5 and CSS to take full performance manner, you have to use the modern browsers. Chrome on top of all, Safari, the latest one, Firefox, the latest one, IE10, not down Windows 8.
And now it's available for Windows 7.
It's actually, yes, in IE10. The IE9, he has CSS to HTML5, maybe 45% of the features, but you might not find WebSockets. Remember now, we were testing for capabilities, false. Or be smart and do the right thing. Keep plugins online. You can just include external JavaScript. It automatically detects what version of browser are you on, and it kind of allows or blocks your HTML file. So it gives different versions and experiences for your users. Then sometimes it's really bad when you say, this website only supports Chrome, and it gives حاجة وارجع تاني. Sometimes you can give a simplified version of the website. It's معلش need for best performance, choose this browser. It depends on how you want to treat your customer. Okay? How about this? 3D aquarium.
This is also WebGL.
Can you add more fishes to the tank?
More?
Yep.
More?
Lots of fishes.
More?
Can you change the camera view?
Okay, change view.
How about this? I love it. Seriously. See? It's absolutely amazing.
Here,
I have
let's.
some questions.
The problem is that how to do it.
Huh?
It takes,
Yeah.
everything takes a
And-
learning curve.
And it has a lot of libraries used. So here, you can remove the light rays. You see, you can remove the bubbles from inside. Remove the fog. It's now crystal clear. Remove the tank. They're floating in the air. No reflections.
طبعا this is 75% graphic objects. The actual work done, 25%. Nothing, and don't worry, you guys are not making fish out of HTML5. This is not your point. The point is making them open in one scene. That's it. That's really cool. Yeah. A canvas is, what is a canvas? This whiteboard is a canvas. Canvas is for artists, huh? Where they draw and keep clearing stuff. No, this is a, so you don't need really 1, 2, 3 canvases. Yes, you can. If you want to have different canvases, that's your option.
Okay.
Okay, guys? Any questions?
Anything that would you like to practice right now, or anything in specific? Because today we should have covered all the absolute basics of HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Next time we'll go through, step by step. Next session we'll go through HTML4. We might include some of HTML5 like video and audio. We'll try to go through as much tags as we can. The one after we'll go through CSS2, all of it, and we'll try to cover a lot of CSS3. The one after we'll go more into JavaScript and jQuery, which is a library, or a library mainly for JavaScript. It will make your life much easier. The last session we will try to do some big thing using all of what you learned, and we might do a couple of examples using Canvas in the last session. Okay.
Which part? Go to the slide.
No, it was in slides.
Go to the slide.
Wait. Yeah,
Just go down. Or is it up or down?
Yeah,
this one, right?
Now, this is going to be like when you want to do something, it's going to check if it's capable of it, or
Yeah, just before you write a line, you just write F. So here, let's just call a function like just test.
Just imagine that every built-in function in JavaScript returns true or false by default. If it's not called with parameters, it just returns true false. So it's actually available. So مثلا simple math plus round. So within something, almost every programming has math plus round. If you say if math plus round means it doesn't exist, it tests for its existence, then you can use it. Okay? He's gonna do it.
And if the second one, which is attachment, oh sorry, so let's try this. Okay, click. We have the test.
You want to click or what is it?
Yeah, it's on click test. We have a function test. We're missing anything. Alright.
How about instead of element this? So can I give it this one?
Oh, sorry. I copied it. I copied it. Exactly. Okay. Add event listener is supported, while attachment is not. If we, I don't know if this copies to Explorer. I hate this program.
You got a follow up? Follow? You want to follow up? Anyone? Cool. As usual, Internet Explorer sucks.
Not responding. Perfect.
It's still doesn't give you enough choice if you do this one. You can do it with
No,
notification.
it cannot. You have to talk to yourself. That's why you should do this.
This is IE10, so it now supports add event listener and attach event. So here, add event listener is supported and attach event is supported.
Yeah,
Huh?
which the thing is, that's why I told you, instead of, how about if you have like 10 different functions and you want to validate if it's supported or not, supported or not, supported or not, you can just use one of them and there's a plugin that will just change the behavior according to the browser. You don't have to actually write everything. There's a tool called Modernizer, you can write it down. Modernizer takes care of the HTML5 to HTML4 transition and also takes care of the JavaScript, different browser compatibility issues.
So it's going to give us code for each one, doesn't want to be about all the issues.
It's just going to live there and it's going to take care of your executing code. You don't have to go inside of it. If you actually go inside of it, it's a minified version. See, there are two different versions, development and production. Development is the unminified, so you have to see the code in it. You can mess with it. Production is just a minified. Can you show it?
Okay. Let's go into the development.
So basically, you just go look for the code and you get for
Yeah. Because really, it's a horrible nightmare. If you just keep looking up, I have like hundreds, thousands of things. I have to validate 10 or 10 or 10 or 10. It used to be this way until one of them killed himself, and then oh, we have to change it. You have to. This is actually an application if you guys wanted to download an open source HTML designer. You don't want to work on the web. Aptana Studio. It sort of feels like Eclipse. Okay, so for those of you who are comfortable with Java, you can work yourself here. Also, I would prefer Adobe Dreamweaver or Microsoft Expression Web.
If you have the money for them.
If you have the money for them. Or you can correct them, that's something I'm not going to discuss here.
Yeah, exactly. The money.
Now you're interested.
Or if you're in a hurry, don't want to download anything, you have jspen.com. You can write HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And it will show you. You have the console. It will show you everything. So here, this is Modernizer.
The main question I want to ask in here, who here wants to be a web designer, who here wants to be a web developer, and who wants to be both? Because actually we give targeted kind of questions for people who are interested in being, original designer. So you're more into the CSS, HTML. Or you don't really care about JavaScript, or you don't want to.
I want to learn it, but I have to be old design.
Okay, who else here wants the same thing? Designer. Designer. Okay. Scary. Developer. You. Both. Because he chose both, or you want both?
Thanks. So, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, it's not like I've got anything to apply on right now.
That's right.
Really, I need it.
What about you?
Maybe both, but more development.
Okay, almost it's 50-50 or 60-40. Interesting. So you guys pay more attention during our next 2 sessions, and do search. What I want from you guys, if it's actually possible, go and have more questions for us. Like, how is this done? Is this doable? Anything. Just think.
While you're surfing the internet, just look for some cool stuff that you see, and right-click inspect and
Now,
yeah.
we are almost 2 teams, so one of you guys, the designers, should have one question in mind if you want to become a web designer, and this is a professional advice. If you become a web designer, now you're starting to pay attention to details. If you go to Facebook, you're not going to go as a normal guest or user anymore. Or if you go to Google or Yahoo or whatever, you get to see, oh, this is cool. How is this done? You pay attention to details. If you become a web designer, here's a hint. You'll make sure nothing goes wrong. You'll be pixel perfect aware. Oh, this thing needs a margin. This thing is out of bounds. As you guys, you need to, how does this work? How does it work? Yeah, I know. How does it work? So it's because some of the, did you guys see the events in Google? The Google Plus. Did anyone here use Google Plus? Did you use this? Did you see the animation of the events? It's like a card. I thought usually when we're going to an event, it's like a nice card, folds in. Now I need to know which team will ask what question. Like which events?
2 events. The internet is pretty slow.
That's pretty. You can just close anything that's off. Sketch. See? Much
Whoa.
faster. Much faster. I guess. It happened for a while. Good. شلون ايه؟
أنا دايما بقول له الأوبي هو الفلوس بالسرعة يعني بس يجي هم اللابتوب بيعلق.
Excellent. Okay, take a look at this.
Yes. Did you see how it?
Now let me ask you guys the same question. How do you think this is done? I'm asking a very broad question. This is JavaScript or CSS? What's your intuition telling you? Why? Why?
Because you're hiding it behind the boxes.
You're hiding it? Actually, do the animation again. Pay
It's
attention.
just putting it behind the box. See the motion?
Is it motion? This is 2D or 3D? Yeah, another question.
When people do the thing, that's what we 6D only.
But I'm asking just to get the information out of you guys. Is this 2D or 3D? 2D? I am up. Both.
It's 2D. 2D.
Okay, why? Explain your answer. What happens to this section? It's folded inside, huh? Is this a 2D motion? Is it?
If you fix the position, you can do it. I can draw with the two completely.
Interesting. Okay, so this is another aspect of it. But it's not JavaScript. We'll take a look at it later. We'll see who actually has the right intuition.
Shall I show them? Yeah. If should I give them an answer or not?
I don't know.
You know what? Here. Yeah. If it was 2D, this is 2D. Pretty much, yeah. It's actually a 3D animation, but it looks like 2D. Right? No, it's actually a 3D animation. Here you have two separate pictures, and they are actually rotating. This how it looks as in 2D. This is how it would look like in 3D.
Did you notice what happened? Again. Okay, so this is 2D. Okay, pay attention, pay attention. 1, 2, 3. Because now it is 3D. There is depth, صح? There is a Z.
Or this is a 3D box, right? It's rotating in 2D. Okay. This is it in 3D. It's
So-
exactly the same box here.
So what would then we do?
The box itself is 3D. No, the box itself is 3D. Look, it's pretty much the same picture, almost.
Even this one?
Yeah, it's the same picture, but the difference is the animation itself. This animation is 2D. You see, the side is flat. This animation has 3D.
If you want to be a designer, you should have this eye. You know what aspect are you dealing with. So,
We will do a lot of these in CSS3 session.
by the way, you'll be amazed how easy this is done. This is just a couple of lines. Couple of lines. Nothing more.
Events only.
Huh?
You answer that.
No, it's 2D. There's no depth.
Actually, there is depth. Because, again, let me go here. This is 3D, this is 2D. Here, even when the picture goes back, it still has the same height and width. When it's 3D, the closer is big, it's bigger, the one behind is smaller. So if you see here, this part, at least look at this half, it's flipping, so the furthest it goes, the smaller that side
I have
becomes.
an even easier way to identify if this is 3D or not.
Inspect it.
No, seriously? Can you identify that? You'll have one more chance. It's very simple. It's out there. Can you just keep doing it until someone gets it?
Yeah, I can't see real emotions very so.
Oh, well, that's your intuition, but there's something that's actually very appearing.
It's lumpy in the middle.
Light. See the light? There's light, there's reflection. We can have that on 3D. Okay. Distribution of light and shadow over a moving object, that's 3D. Alrighty. Good. See how a designer can intercept things? Very differently. That's why he has a different design that you do. No one has the same design ever. No two designers will agree to anything. I think that's a universal concept, so don't think you're going to be end up fighting. You just have to agree to disagree.
By the way, this box, this is its code. It's all CSS.
Go again. I just have to see this. No, yeah, there's a certain aspect of X and Y.
What?
If you think it's random because
Because أيوة.
so many faces.
No. Which one is the picture? This is each picture. These are actually just, if I right click here,
Whoever is on
It's an image.
biology or chemistry
with a source.
You
the
know,
whole
people
life
like
cycle, yeah.
No, These are just pictures.
And how do you include them?
It's a tag called image, okay, and you give it the source or the location of the image itself. Here, this is
Should
the
be online.
what?
Should be online.
Yeah. So the image and its location, and this is it.
يعني أهم حاجة الإيمج should be with the same. It's available when the website is available. It's either online on the website or with you on a certain directory.
Yeah. I guess that's it for today.
Yeah, that's a lot because we need you to
Okay.
get the main easy concepts out.
I'll upload the slides online today or tomorrow max if you'd like to check them on the website. Yeah, just go to our website here, abudhabi.gtux.org. In the events, you'll find the Web Designing Bootcamp. If you haven't already registered, just register.
And pass it on to other people who are interested. I guess someone's interested.
Register, and you'll find it soon in the session 1 link. All the material. No, it's the Web Designing Bootcamp.
Is anyone afraid? Because I don't need anyone who's afraid. The whole thing. This is okay. The one thing I don't want you guys to have is being scared, because
Yeah.
we just had one in HTML5 and CSS session in Dubai with people who didn't know nothing. We had 3 days, only 3 days, and we made a complete difference. People are now developing things, so don't worry. Whatever the background, this is a step-by-step procedure, and you guys have 5 days, not 3. Cool.
How many hours?
2 hours,
2 hours.
3 hours. Yeah, it was 2 sessions, and the third one was a hackathon. So the first session was 2 hours. The second session was 3 hours or 3.5 hours.
It was really condensed. No time to take your time and ask. But you guys are having 3 to 4 hours.
Yeah.
No lecture. You have lecture. VIP.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you, man.
Okay. Thank you all for coming. Pass to your friends the links, or if you know anyone who might be interested in joining us, there is still a chance because we'll still go into HTML4 next session, CSS2, so they still can catch up, especially if they go through the slides that we'll post. It will be pretty easy for them. The whole session I recorded it, so I'll upload it and share the link with you also. All the material, you'll find it within a couple of days on the session 1 link. And if you have any questions, you'll find my email in the website, ubay@gtux.org. Just send me any questions. And I guess I'll see you next session. Inshallah.
Thank you.